So I'm going to tell you tonight about kind of a dark period in my life that I don't really like to talk about very much. But they say that confession is good for the soul, right? So here's my shameful truth. I used to be a telemarketer. Don't judge me. Was. It was the summer of 1981, and I had just finished my junior year in college. I was staying back at my parents' house in suburban Cleveland. In September, I would be going off to France to study for a semester. And my room, board, tuition, all that was taken care of through my university. But I was working a part-time job at the World Bazaar store at the mall to earn money for travel and other incidental expenses. But I quickly realized that selling crappy wicker furniture part-time at minimum wage wasn't even going to begin to keep me in croissant and pain au chocolat, let alone wine tasting. So I began to scour the want ads for a second job. No one, it seems, was looking for an amateur croissant and wine taster. But there was a promising ad under part-time sales. It read, "Do you have a pleasant phone manner? Can you read from a simple script? If so, we have a job for you. Guaranteed salary. Call Mr. Shaughnessy at 555-5555. This sounded pretty good to me, so I picked up the rotary phone in our kitchen and I dialed that number as fast as my little fingers could fly. A woman answered. "Direct market sales, this is Reggie." I was very impressed by her pleasant phone manner. I asked for Mr. Shaughnessy, and I silently congratulated myself for being familiar enough with that name to know that the G and H were silent. Reggie said that Mr. Shaughnessy wasn't in, but she was a manager and she could interview me. She started by asking me to read the ad back to her, which I did in my most pleasant phone manner. Then she asked me some questions about my experience and availability, and ended up offering me the job right on the spot, right there on the phone. She was looking to fill positions in the early evening shift, Monday through Friday, and this jibed perfectly with my schedule at World Bazaar. In addition to that, I was going to be earning a guaranteed $50 every week, plus any commission I made on top of that. Righteous bucks for 1981. I could practically hear those croissants calling my name. "Sandra, Sandra, nous vous attendons. We are waiting for you." The following Monday, when my shift ended at World Bazaar, I rode the bus up Northfield Road a few miles to an office building in Maple Heights. Then I went up to the third floor and found the Direct Market Services office. This was my first office job. I was so excited. The office itself was one big room, and it was set up kind of like a classroom. There was a desk in front, and then several long tables throughout the room. And seated at those tables were about 15 or 20 college-age people, mostly women, all of them on the phone. On the desk in front was a radio, and it was tuned in to my very favorite rock station, WMMS in Cleveland, home of the Buzzard. Mr. Shaughnessy wasn't there, but Reggie was, and she was going to show me the ropes. Reggie was a few years older than me, maybe 23, 24. And she bore an uncanny resemblance to the actress Peri Gilpin, who played Roz on Frasier. Only since this was 1981 and no one knew who Peri Gilpin was at the time, it's probably more accurate to say that she bore an uncanny resemblance to Reggie. Reggie helped me get my paperwork done, and then she sat me down at my phone. Our product was subscriptions to the Cleveland Press. This was the city's afternoon paper that was popular with the blue-collar population, and the one that didn't carry Doonesbury. I had 2 sheets of paper in front of me. One had a 3-digit local telephone exchange written at the top, and then several columns of numbers beneath it that ranged from 0000 to 9999. It was my job to call each and every one of those numbers. If it was out of service, busy, or otherwise a non-viable number, I made a note on the sheet and called the next number. If a real live person answered, I looked to the second sheet and read from the script. "Hi, This is Sandra from the Cleveland Press. Did you receive your paper today? If the answer was yes, I said, terrific. This was just a service call. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And went on to the next number. If the answer was no, I don't subscribe to the press, that's when the fun began. And I read from the next section on the script. Basically, the hook was this. At that time, the Cleveland Press was running a contest where they printed a different Social Security number on the front page every day. Yeah, it was 1981. We didn't know identity theft from our elbows, okay? But if your number was the one that was printed, you won $100. Righteous bucks for 1981. And it's already your lucky day because I can register your Social Security number for you so you're sure to get in the contest. And I can make you a real good deal on a subscription so you can check every day to see when you're going to be the big winner. I made 0 sales the first few nights. Mostly I got yelled at and hung up on because even in 1981, telemarketers were viewed as several levels below pond scum. But my coworkers and I, we weren't sub-pond scum. I mean, I didn't really know them very well because I was really busy trying to learn my lines. But from what I can tell, they were all just like me. Young people just trying to make a little money, even if it meant working at an unpopular job. And Reggie was great. She was a great boss. Her job was to close sales, interview job candidates on the phone when they called, and most importantly, to keep our energy and morale up by being a cheerleader. For example, whenever the radio would play that Bob Dylan song where everybody must get stoned, you know the one, she would jump up on her desk and lead us all in singing along. Only because we were telemarketers, you know what we did. We sang, everybody must get phoned. We're sorry, sir, if we interrupted your dinner, but we telemarketers are really nice people. And besides, we pretty much rock the house. But when Friday came around, I had managed to make a few sales, but mostly I was really raw from being yelled at all week. And from the looks of it, some of the other members of the crew were feeling the same. Reggie was on it. It was Friday. And at 6 o'clock, when WMMS played Born to Run, as they did at 6 p.m. every single Friday, she had us get up and we had a kick-ass air guitar jam session. Yeah. And after that, she announced for us new people that since it was Friday, there was going to be a special treat at the 7 o'clock break. The mood in the room brightened noticeably. 7 o'clock came, and Reggie invited everyone to gather around the picture window in the office, which looked out over Northfield Road. There was an air of giddy anticipation among the people who had been there for a little while. The woman next to me said, "Oh, I just love it when we do this. Reggie, look, there's a couple of them right now. Go for it." Reggie was on it. She picked up her phone and dialed a number from memory. Everyone at the window focused on the payphone that was across the street in front of the drugstore. So you know what a payphone is. I don't have to paint you a picture. All right. We were also focused on a trio of African American teenagers who were walking toward the phone at the time. But just before they could get to the phone and answer it, a white teenager came out of the drugstore and he picked up instead. When he did, Reggie hung up and didn't say a word. A few minutes later, another small group of African American teenagers came by, and Reggie redialed the number. These kids picked up, and Reggie told them that she was the promotions manager at the city's urban radio station. And it was their lucky day because they had won concert tickets. And those tickets were right near the payphone, in that trash can over there. Kids are gullible, especially kids who pick up a ringing payphone. So of course they dove for it, started looking through the trash to find those tickets. Everyone at the window lost it. They thought this was hilarious. The kids came back on the phone to say that they couldn't find the tickets, And Reggie said, no, no, they're in there. Keep digging, dig deeper. And they did. At the window, they were eating it up. They were laughing and pointing and saying the most vile, cruel, vicious, racist things about children. As for me, I had backed away from the window when Reggie sent the kids to the trash can the first time. But when the N-word started to appear on everyone's laughing lips, I fled to the ladies' room. I just couldn't process what had just happened. I had very little office experience, but I didn't think it was normal to use such an ugly, racist thing as a morale booster. And what was even worse, what the real gut punch was, is there was no expectation that anyone would find this objectionable. They thought that everyone was on board. I stayed in the ladies' room until the break time was over, and I walked back to my desk and very grimly started making the rest of my assigned calls. Everyone else was still laughing and giddy and not paying attention to me. I clearly had chosen poorly. A little while later, I overheard Reggie answering her phone. Direct Market Sales, this is Reggie. She listened for a second and then she made a motion for everyone to listen to her side of the conversation. Now, I just can't bring myself to repeat what she said or how she said it. So I invite you to picture the jive lady from the movie Airplane, only instead of a very sweet, helpful Barbara Billingsley, it's a young, sneering Peri Gilpin, and she's using this horrible, exaggerated ghetto accent to tell the person on the other end of the line that Mr. Shagnessy, oh, he's not here. And unfortunately, Mr. Shagnessy is the only one who can interview you. So what you need to do is call back tomorrow, and maybe Mr. Shagnessy will be in. Bye. More raucous laughter from the phone bank. Another gut punch for me. I was naive, I admit it, but I honestly thought that Mr. Shaughnessy was a real person. I didn't know that he was really Mr. Shibboleth, a test that I had unwittingly passed, you should pardon the expression, with flying colors when I called. It was another gut punch. We didn't talk about white privilege back in 1981, but rest assured it was alive and well all the same. And needless to say, this was my last night as a telemarketer. I had 2 more calls to make before I could put an end to this horrible, albeit brief, period in my life. On Monday, I called Reggie and told her, using my very most pleasant phone manner, that I just didn't think I was a good fit for her team, and I didn't want to work for her anymore. My second call was to the phone company. I told them exactly what had been going on at that payphone, exactly who was making the calls, exactly what company she worked for, and exactly what number she had called from. The phone rep I talked to was just as outraged as I was, but she said unfortunately there really wasn't anything she could do other than reprogram the payphone so it could no longer accept incoming calls. But she could do that right away. This was not the terrible swift sword of telephone justice that I was expecting, but it was better than nothing. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized what it was going to be like the next Friday when Reggie dialed that number and she and everyone with their nose pressed to the window learned the hard way that not everybody must be phoned. Bye. Thank you.